Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mangs. And today I welcome you guys to a very special Advanced Wars by Web replay commentary. If you want to improve as an Advanced Wars player, at some point you're gonna have to challenge people who are better than you. If you just keep playing against people with less experience, fun as it may be, you're not really gonna have those aha moments where you rethink everything you thought you knew about the game. This was one such match for me. I decided to challenge some guy named XLBlem, I think that's how you pronounce it. Now this guy is one of the top ranked players on this website on the league scoreboards. He's really good at Advanced Wars. He should make a YouTube channel or something, that'd be interesting. And yeah, I decided to challenge him to a match just to see what would happen, and this is the results. It's gonna be very interesting to analyze this match. I'm playing as my favorite CO, Chatter. You know all about Chatter. I shouldn't have to explain the CO to you guys. He's a really good CO that I honestly think I've been underrating a little bit. Like, the more I play Adder, the more I appreciate just how amazing he is. However, I'm up against a very interesting CO today. I'm playing against Sasha, who is a... well, I mean, she may not be a complete powerhouse in terms of her abilities, but she definitely requires you to take a different approach to the game, because of course, Sasha, she's very strong. She can basically almost lock down any CO's power. She has that normal power, Market Crash, which costs 2 stars. And basically reduces the enemy CO meter depending on how much money she has. So, the bigger economy match she plays, the harder she can lock down your CO power. Now, she has a pretty decent day-to-day power. She gets 10% extra income from properties. And basically, you can treat this as Sasha just having a 10% bigger army than you. And of course, if she's able to continuously lock down your power, then this means that she will statistically have an advantage over you. Now, there's another thing about Sasha that I think most people don't think about, and that's the fact that if she continuously spam her normal power to lock down the enemy CO's power meter, then she's gonna get the occasional 10% firepower in defense, while her opponent is not. So that's another point in her favor. So she's very strong against COs that heavily rely on their superpowers, for example. She also has a superpower herself, War Bonds. It's pretty decent. I mean, it can certainly be used to great effect once the match has really taken off. She basically gets 50% of the value of any unit that she kills. So if she kills a medium tank, then she immediately adds 8,000 to her bank. Now, in order for War Bonds to be really effective, there does need to be a lot of engagements taking place on the turn that she pops it. Otherwise, I think it's better to just pop Market Crash over and over again to deny the enemy CO his CO power. Now, I would actually say that Adder is pretty good against Sasha. Sasha can definitely hold his power down somewhat, but she's not going to be able to do it forever. Sideslip simply charges up way too quickly. At some point, Adder is going to be able to get his power, and no matter how hard Sasha tries, she's not going to be able to prevent all of them. But she will prevent some sideslips, and that is annoying because Adder really does rely on those sideslips to be effective. Now, we are playing on a map called Bandit Revolution. Ended up being a really cool map. I like this one a lot. Both players starts out with 1 base each, and then there are 2 more neutral bases which can be captured rather quickly. There are 2 comm towers on the map that are relatively in the center, so they will be fought over, and whoever can grab both comm towers will win the match pretty damn quickly. There's an airport on each side, and both players also start out with a lander, and there's a little pond on each side. Now, this lander is actually pretty interesting, because it allows you to ferry units from your base and straight into the middle. So using this lander is going to be very important, how it is used, what units it is used to ferry. However, due to the way the shoals are structured on this map, you can only unload a single unit from your lander. So that is something you have to keep in mind. Now, there are 2 labs on the map, and there are no HQs, and that means that the lab is the HQ. This means that whoever captures the other player's lab will actually win the map. So this is something you definitely have to keep in mind. Anyway, without further ado, let us get started. So I am player 1, I go first, and I immediately go for the base. Of course, I mean, that's a no-brainer. You want to grab the neutral bases as quickly as possible. I build an infantry, and I move the lander into position to ferry the infantry into the center of the map. So, XL Emblem decides to go for the base. That's pretty much a given. And he actually decides to cap the harbor right away. So already you can tell the difference in our openers here. And this is actually something that I've been thinking a lot about lately. My capture game. I played multiple matches lately, and I've been critiqued on my capture game. I have a tendency to rush for the contested properties in the middle, and I've actually started rethinking that strategy a little bit. You can see XL Emblem here goes for the capture right away in order to get an economic advantage. And since he is Sasha, he also gets 100 extra for those properties. So I would say it's actually even more important for him to take as many properties as he can early on. So already you can see a big difference in our playstyles right here. He does send his lander into the shoal, however, but he decides to go for the harbor first. So my turn rolls in, I capture the base, and immediately I send my infantry down here. I use basically this lander just to get my infantry one turn closer to the airport. I decide that I'm going to try and get the airport as quickly as possible because I estimate that transport copters might be decent on this map, despite the fact that we start with a lander. Now over on XL Emblem's side, he decides to continue capturing, and he decides to send his infantry towards the lander, but he's not loading any infantry into the lander just yet. I go for the base up here. Of course, you want to go for those neutral properties immediately, and I also start capturing the airport. And I use the lander to ferry my infantry into the center, hoping to go for some of these juicy properties in the middle here. And once again, I build infantry. That's what most players are going to do in the early game, just spam infantry. And it's going to be exciting to see how long it's going to take before either of us decides to open up with anything aggressive. So my opponent decides to go for the airport. So day 4 rolls in, and I decide to go for the property in the center. These two properties are not so contested, but these two properties are the ones we will be fighting over for the majority of the game. I send my lander back to fetch another infantry. And I finally decide to start capturing my third base. And once again, I go for more of the properties around my starting location. My opponent does the same thing. He decides to capture this property as well, So far, we've opened up pretty similarly. The only difference is I have this airport, whereas XL Emblem decided to go for the harbor instead. But we are tied in terms of income. Well, you know, as tied as you can be with Sasha. I mean, she's always going to be a little bit ahead of you. But we have the same number of properties. So here, XL Emblem decides to go for the base. So we're going to be capturing those bases about around the same time. And both players are still opening up infantry on day 5. Nothing too crazy happening here. I do believe that lander looked a little bit weird there, but yeah, no, I did indeed send my infantry into this lander and load it off right here. And now I too decide to go for the harbor. It's nice to capture the harbor because it allows you to refuel your lander. At some point, if you keep sending it back and forth, it is going to run low on fuel. Nothing too urgent, but it's something to keep in mind. Landers do tend to last for a long while, though. Black boats are far worse in terms of fuel because they have 60 as opposed to the lander's 99. So it's XL Emblem's turn. He continues to cap properties. And he decides to go for the airport, still using that lander to ferry infantry into the center. He's doing a good job here spreading out his infantry. And still just opening up infantry. Neither player has gone any type of aggressive units yet. Both players are playing it pretty greedily and just going for full economy right now. Basically, both players are just booming up. And yep, on my turn, I also build primarily just infantry. So both players are being very economic right now. So XL Emblem continues to capture properties around his vicinity. He finally takes the airport, uses the lander to ferry yet another infantry into the center. And here he opens up the very first tank on day 6. So right now he has opened up tank, and again, this is a pretty good opener, I'd say. In most of my matches, I do tend to open recon, but more and more, I've been more positively inclined to opening with the tank, because while the tank gives a lot less vision, it's just so much more powerful to have a tank out in the early game, because of course you can murder the opposing recon. The tank does equal damage to the recon in terms of its machine gun against infantry. Of course, you know, the tank has 3 vision as opposed to the recon's 5, but still, if you position it properly, you should be able to scout the enemy infantry. So here I decided to go for this property right here, and this was probably a little bit cocky. You know, Exel can see this just fine. He has this infantry right here. I don't really know why I thought I'd be able to get this property. I guess part of me hoped that he wouldn't be in this area, but of course he's a good player, so of course he's going to have infantry in the center. So yeah, very cocky on my end to go for this property. Probably should have just been happy going for this one, or maybe going for the tower. And I decided to go for this property as well, which again, deciding to forego the tower in order to take the properties, which, you know, sometimes that can pay off. But most times, your opponent is just going to rush you down and take the properties back from you, and you could end up losing your infantry. So this kind of aggressive infantry play early on, I don't really think it's the best thing you can do. So far, we are absolutely tied in terms of both units and income. Both players playing very similarly. And here, I decide to open up with the tank as well. So we're actually going the exact same openers right here. Early infantry into tanks on both sides. This is very interesting. I actually didn't know we played this similarly. This is the first time I'm watching the replay after the game, so, you know, I don't remember everything we did in my head. It's been a few days ago at this point since we played the match. Now here, Exel decides to go for the early game comm tower. I say this is a pretty good move because there's going to be infantry skirmishes in the center here, and the quicker you take over that comm tower, the faster you will get that 10% extra firepower, and that will aid you when you are doing those infantry skirmishes in the center. So here, he decides to interrupt my cap. Interesting move here to decide to go from the road as opposed to the plains. I can only imagine he did this for positioning's sake. You know, if he took the engagement from the plains, then he would have gotten, what, 10% extra defense as opposed to on this road. So interesting thing he decided to do here. Could be that he decided to take the engagement from the road because that would also allow him to reach this property next turn. I don't know, but I can only imagine that that's why. So here he comes with the tank. The tank is primed and ready to strike next turn. So if I don't move that infantry away, it will get wiped out. So he continues to move his infantry. We're moving very similarly on this map, I see. We're making many of the same moves. And here he opens up second tank. And honestly, this is a very good, strong opener. You want a second tank to back up your first tank. So if you get attacked by the opposing tank, you can attack with a tank of your own. It's like a tank, basically. Tank. The things I say sometimes. So day 8 rolls in. I finish capturing this property right here, which is technically, I would say this is on Exel side. So I've taken one of his properties, basically. And I too decide to go for the comm tower. And I pull my infantry back. And so here, you know, I certainly could have attempted to continue capturing, but I imagine that he would have a recon or a tank in the shadows, and that's exactly what he has. However, I'm not entirely fond of my decision to go into this mountain right here. I think it would have been better if I had retreated either down into this forest tile or maybe to this tile right here. Of course, he could have followed me and shot me from the mountain, but I actually think this is better because when I position myself on this mountain, sure, I'm able to see some of his units, but he'll just be able to kill that infantry next turn. So I'm basically just sacking that infantry to get a little bit of vision, which I don't think is very useful at this point during the game, because he doesn't really have that much more to scout. I send my tank towards the center. There's a lot of rough terrain, so it's a little bit hard to get it there quickly. And once again, you know, both players are using their landers to great effect here. Right now, I do have a slight income lead, but Exel hasn't taken his turn yet, so he still hasn't finished capping his properties. So day 8 rolls in. He finishes capping his comm tower. He now has that available. So now that tank has a 10% firepower increase. Boom. I don't know if that was a high roll or a low roll. I do believe a tank with 10% firepower against the 6 HP infantry on mountains. I think that's a pretty reliable chance of killing it. And he moves into the mountain here to get a little bit of scouting info. I now understand that he has a tank here. He continues capping more properties, and he goes aggressively into the middle here. So, and once again, you know, sending that lander back, always utilizing that lander to full effect. I got nothing to say on that. This lander can also be used to transport any ground unit, which is kind of nice. And like a black boat that can only transport infantry, the lander can transport a tank, a rocket, missiles, you know, anything that has problems moving normally over planes. You can use that lander, basically. So, right now, I do believe Exel is one property ahead of me in terms of the capture game. So, he's doing a pretty good job in that regard. So my turn rolls in, I take the comm tower. I decide to send my infantry down here, hoping maybe I can snatch this property on the next turn. I move my infantry into this forest right here to scout out the tank and see if there's any other units around, and I can see that there are. But I don't really agree with this move right here. I'm playing very recklessly with my infantry. He will be able to kill this infantry next turn. I should have played way more defensively. So I start capping the property right here, and I move forward with my other infantry as well, and I move in with my tank. I decide to hide it in the forests. I see that he has an infantry on the mountain here. I don't see it right now, but I know that it's there, and this infantry has 5 visions. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this tank is positioned just on the edge of his vision range. So hopefully, if I can keep it concealed, that increases the chance of me getting the first strike. That is always important, you know, whenever there's a situation with a tank versus a tank, the tank who strikes first will always win. Of course, Excel Emblem has another tank backing up his first tank. In fact, he has a 3rd tank, so he's going very heavily on the tanks right here. And this is honestly a very solid way to play a small map like this. Just go a lot of early game tanks. They are really amazing in the early game. So I continue to cap more properties. Right now I'm up to 14,000 income. I build an anti-air here. I had just watched Excel Emblem's video about battlecopters, and I was like, you know, he seems like the guy who could open early battlecopter. I just feel like that might be something he can do. So I build a anti-air preemptively, thinking that that's what he has in mind. Of course, that's not what he's doing at all. In fact, he's opening up 3 tanks, so statistically, a very weak opener by me. Anti-air not very good against tanks, so this was not a good move for me. I tried to play the mind games and I failed. But I'm moving in the anti-air. Anti-air is not a bad unit to have around. It can one-shot infantry, so it can be useful, but not when there are 3 tanks in the middle. And here I decide to open up a battlecopter. You know, I'm like, okay, you know, maybe he opens up early game battlecopter. I'll open up early game battlecopter. If he has a battlecopter, I'll try to first strike his battlecopter. Otherwise, I'll just try to go for the tanks. And in this situation, you know, battlecopters are very good against tanks, so this was definitely the right move by me. So, yep, his turn rolls in. He continues to cap his properties, still using that lander to primarily ferry infantry. And here he moves in, and here he comes in with tank number 1 and tank number 2. And at this point, I see, okay, he has 2 tanks in the middle. That's not good. I just built an anti-air. I know that this is going to be a very tricky position for me to fight in right now. And he's even moving in his 3rd tank. Of course, I'm not seeing this right now. But yeah, no, he went really hard on the early game tanks. And, you know, when your opponent open up tanks like that, there is only really one thing you can do. Or there's 2 things you can do. If you have the money for it, you can open up medium tank. Medium tank will shut down any tank aggression. But really, the only thing you can realistically do when your opponent opens up like 3 early game tanks is you have to open up 3 early game tanks. You know, tanks... You can, of course, try to go the battlecopter, which I do, but the battlecopter is very easily shut down by a single anti-air. So it's... You know, you can try it, but in my experience, when the opponent goes heavy on tanks, you have to go heavy on tanks. So, he continues to move into the center here, and he builds an anti-air. So again, I mean, like, this guy read me like an open book. I mean, this is really good intuition on his end, you know. Just building that anti-air, he knows that there might be a battlecopter coming. He probably thought that, you know, after I saw all his tanks, he thought maybe I would go a battlecopter, so he preemptively built an anti-air. So again, really solid play by him, and he builds a 4th tank. So he is just going incredibly aggressive on me right now. I only have a single tank, he has 4 tanks. So already, this is not looking great for me. So here, he attempts to capture my property. I decide to interrupt him. Now here, I definitely could have gone and taken this property from him. He would have had difficulties spawning it. He would have needed to move this infantry down and then interrupt with this one. If I had gone to the left right now and just taken this property, there's a very good chance I would have taken it from him. Of course, I don't know how long I would have been able to hold it, but it's something I could have considered. But I didn't want him to take my property. I roll a pretty good roll there, and I managed to interrupt his cap. And here, this is, you know, this kind of annoys me right here. So, here, he has a 7 HP infantry standing on the edge of my vision, and I should have known that this was here. Had I moved on the anti-air first, I mean, the anti-air has actually only 2 visions, so honestly, I should have moved this infantry first and then moved with this one, because there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to take a shot at a 7 HP infantry with my infantry right here. So I moved in first. This was really bad on my end, and I move in my tank as well. Of course, I am heavily outgunned in the center. I move in my anti-air as well, hoping that maybe, you know, maybe if I see a battlecopter, I'll be able to take it out. And I move my battlecopter in as well, trying to keep it hidden from him as much as possible. Of course, I realize that this infantry can move south and scout it, but I'm hoping I'll be able to move it forward undetected. So once again, I decide to build some tanks of my own. A little bit too late, probably should have had 2 extra tanks in the middle right now, but you know, better late than never, I guess. But I continue to move my infantry towards the center, and I build a recon. I don't really know why I decided to build a recon this late. It's day 10. I think it's too late for recons, honestly, but I guess I didn't really have a... I had 7,000 remaining. Instead of building a second tank, I decided to try and utilize my bases to their maximum effect. But I'm not a big fan of this, honestly. So, he moves his anti-air, like, God, it's like this guy's playing with map hack or something. Like, he just knows. It's like he knows there's a battlecopter there without even knowing it. It's honestly scary to see. So he moves his infantry down here. He would have been able to interrupt for sure. He gets himself trapped. He takes a shot on my infantry right here. His infantry game was really good in this match. Like, he played extremely well. And once again, using that lander to transport more infantry. His tanks are moving forward. And again, putting his tank on my city. And just, like, taking so many good engagements right here. He just moved his troops so well this game. Like, I remember just being incredibly frustrated by how good his positioning was. And again, wow, 2 tanks and an infantry. He is just going hyper aggressive on the direct combat. Not a single artillery or rocket or anything like that. Not a battlecopter, just tanks and anti-air. So, it's my turn to try and push back a little bit more. So I send my infantry. I want to try and grab this property right here. And I move my infantry into the mountain. Probably should have attacked with this guy instead of moving into the mountain, honestly. But I decide to try and entrench myself in the middle, utilizing the defense of those mountains to make my infantry harder to kill. Attacks this 7 HP infantry here, a little bit ambitious, I'd say. And here I come in with my battlecopter, and I didn't see this at the time, but I am right on the edge of his anti-air. So this was a pretty good move, you know, you can see a battlecopter against a tank on a road. Oh, that's a pretty effective trade. And then I decide to attack his tank on the city, even though it's like my city. He's not going to get 2 HP back from that, but he still gets the defense. Of course, I didn't know at this time that he had 2 tanks hidden in the fog right here. I had no idea just how outgunned I was right here. And I actually decided to move in with my anti-air to take down his 3 HP tank. I should not have done this. I should not have done this, because I'm basically just throwing my anti-air away at this point. That's not a good move. So I bring in a tank into the center, and I continue moving infantry in. And here I decide to go rockets. Now, had I known that he had 2 extra tanks in the middle here, I would never, ever have built this rocket. At this point, I thought that maybe he was playing a little bit conservatively, that he would try to put up some indirects. And I figure, you know, I have a lander. The lander can get the rocket over here. Then I can position the rocket in this wood right here. It will basically cover the entire lower map. I've had some success with rockets in the past, but looking at this map right now, I don't think this is the map for indirects. Like, you have some good positions here for artillery maybe, but the map is much too open for any rocket play. With rockets, you really need a more closed-off map, because of course, a single tank making it to your rocket, that rocket is effectively shut down. That is a unit worth 7,000, shutting down a unit worth 15,000. That is how you utilize the value. So yeah, no, I should not have built this rocket right here. Instead of building this rocket, I should have probably built a medium tank, I think, looking at the situation right here. Honestly, already I'm in a very tricky spot because he just has so many more tanks than me. Our values are equal, like 74,000 to his 77,000, but just the amount of tanks he has in the center is just baffling. Like, I maybe could have made something happen if I had started transporting mechs into the middle. Mechs are decent against tanks, especially if you can get your mechs into mountains. If you have a single transport copter continuously ferrying mechs into the center, I think that would have been a response to this. But yeah, no, this rocket right here, absolutely stupid move. This was not the game to build indirects. But so far, I have yet to see that he has this many tanks. I mean, I have only seen a single tank so far. No, never mind. I've seen 2 tanks. I destroyed 1. So I've destroyed 1 tank and injured the other. So I guess it makes sense from, like, if you really try to put yourself into my mentality right now. I have seen 1 tank and I've killed the other tank. So I feel pretty good about myself right now. I have a battlecopter shutting down further tanks. So I feel very confident getting a rocket out, because any situation where you can get a rocket out safely is very good for you. That's going to give you a lot of value. But because XL Emblem is doing such a good job hiding all of his tanks, you know, I have no idea what's coming. I have no idea the insane aggression he's about to unleash on me. And so this rocket just ended up being a horrible decision. So he continues firing infantry into the center. He finishes capturing his properties. He decides to take some engagements on my infantry in the center here. Just playing a pretty solid game. He doesn't really care that I'm on the mountains. He attacks me anyway. And here he pops his market crash, which was a very interesting move on his end. See, he pops this market crash mid-turn. So if you see my power meter, I almost have enough for a side slip. He pops market crash and pretty much put my power down to 0. However, he continues to take engagements, so he was more interested, I think, here in getting the 10% firepower and defense buff from his power, because he actually ends up doing quite a lot of damage to me right here, and actually ends up basically giving me sideslip again. So he could have waited until the end of his turn, and he probably would have done a lot more to reduce my power. But, you know, actually no, he wouldn't, because he's limited by his money. Never mind. So, yeah, I guess this was a pretty good move, even though, like, he's not going to stop me from getting my side slip, but he will get that 10% firepower and defense increase, so that's pretty good. Pretty good turn for him overall. Now here, he does a very good job placing his anti-air just on the visionary range of my battlecopter. So, of course, at this point, I probably should have known there was an anti-air coming, but still, really solid play by him. He continues to send more tanks into the center, and 2 more tanks than infantry. I mean, this guy just goes full out tank aggression right here. This was a very interesting way to play for sure. So here my turn rolls in and I just decide to shoot on his tank. So basically my thought pattern at this point was, okay, so I've taken out almost 1 tank with my battlecopter, which is close to 7,000. If I take out basically another, then the battlecopter will have earned itself in, even if it gets shot down. So I decided to just, you know, shoot on his tank, despite knowing that my battlecopter probably would have gotten itself killed. The right move to do, though, probably would be to wait until I get my side slip and then move the battlecopter into the center. It would have moved it away from this anti-air. I would have been able to do more damage with it, but hey, hindsight is 20/20, right? Can we still say that, 20/20? Like, it's not 2020 anymore. Should we say hindsight is 2021? I don't know, anyway. So I pop my side slip, you know, and here I come in. A good engagement on this tank right here. You know, like, I was very happy with this engagement. This recon is also able to reach this infantry, and I'm able to interrupt this capture, which I'm very happy about. Here, I decide to capture his property here, which I guess is cool looking at it. He doesn't have a lot of forces in the area. And I'm going to end up getting this property, which is, I was pretty happy about that move. I could have been even more ballsy, though. I could have attempted to take his comm tower, but I didn't think this would work. So I move my rocket into the lander. Again, I'm feeling pretty good about this rocket play, but at this point, I have no idea the amount of tanks that I'm about to face. So here, I start moving my infantry into the center. I take a lot of really good engagements against this infantry right here. You know, just looking at this, like, I'm definitely winning the infantry engagements in the center here. Like, I'm doing a lot of damage to him, and I'm very happy about the plays that I'm making here. So, absolutely dominating in the center, but that won't really matter. Just look at the amount of tanks that are about to hit the south. And I build another battlecopter. I know that he probably has an anti-air, but I decide to go with the battlecopter anyway, thinking I might be able to make something happen. And here I decide to build a mech a little bit too late, I think. I should have built mechs a lot sooner in this fight. If I had had like 2 or 3 mechs in this area, I might have been able to take some really good shots at his tanks. So his day rolls in, and here I'm noticing just how many tanks he has. Here comes the anti-air taking out my battlecopter. Here comes another tank taking out my tank. I see like 1 tank, 2 tanks, 3 tanks, 4 tanks. At this point, I am just going, oh my god, this is not good. He has so many tanks. I am completely unprepared to take on this many tanks. He's doing some good counterattacks against my infantry right now, killing a lot of them, so... And yeah, he just continuously moves tanks into the center. God, this guy built a lot of tanks. Holy shit, this guy built a lot of tanks. And now he builds his own battlecopter, tank, and a recon and an infantry. Good plays all around. So yeah, you can see our value difference is quite different right now. He also is leading in terms of properties. You know, he is Sasha, so he is making more than me anyway on equal properties, but he is 2 properties ahead of me right now. Oh, never mind. He is 1 property ahead of me. He's Sasha. I'm a moron, of course. I forgot how math worked there for a moment. Yeah, no, he is 1 property ahead of me. Never mind. However, now I take his property, and I was really happy about this. I didn't expect to actually get this. So now, I am making 17,000. I don't think it updated on his turn, but I think it will go down on his turn. And, you know, I continued to take shots at his infantry. Again, I was very happy with my infantry engagements. I even have a recon right here, which I was very happy about. And I'm also in position to start capping his comm tower next turn. So I am definitely threatening a lot of his properties in the center. And I send my battlecopter into the center because I realize there's an anti-air right now and I can't really deal with that. And I continue to send my infantry towards the north. I realize that I'm probably not going to win the south, so I decide to go for the north instead. And here I make my biggest mistake by far. I ferry my rocket in here. I don't really know why I thought this would work. I mean, look at the amount of tanks he has here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tanks, 6, 7 tanks, 2 more in the fog, another one coming, and like, I don't know why I thought this rocket would be safe. I should have moved the rocket up here instead, placed it on me. If I could have gotten the rocket onto this city, I think it would have been very safe. But instead, I decided to go for the rocket here, deciding to put it in this forest tile. Absolutely stupid. I don't know what I was thinking. I decided to go with a medium tank because I see how many tanks he has. There's no way I'll be able to match his tank numbers, but I can try to get a medium tank into the center and try to push them away that way. You know, no matter how many, like, you need so many tanks to take out a single medium tank. Like, a tank can take like 3 or 4. Like, a medium tank can take like 3 or 4 tanks on its own. So it's a good hard counter, basically. So yeah. Day 13 rolls in, and Excel Emblem recognizes his advantage here, and he pushes hard back against me. Sends a tank up north to deal with the recon. He can certainly afford it. He has so many tanks right now. And yeah, he pushes me back very valiantly, and he moves in. And here, I'm just like, please don't see my rocket. Oh my god, he saw my rocket. And yeah, that's devastating. Boom. Rocket down on 5 HP. And he starts capturing my southern properties. Again, there was really nothing I could do about this level of tanks down south. Like, at this point, the game is already lost. Imagine if instead of this rocket right here, I had 2 tanks in this vicinity. I could have actually fought back against him. You know? It's... I really... If I had more tanks in this match, this would have gone a lot differently. So day 14 rolls in, I move in with my battlecopter, technically outside of range of this anti-air, I believe, so that's not a terrible move. I continue to move forward. I'm doing a good job up north. I could have honestly gone for the capture on the comm tower instead of attacking him here, but I didn't think I'd get it anyway, so I decided to just attack him instead. I pop my side slip mid-turn, even though I've taken multiple engagements, just because I know I need every bit of power that I can get right now. I move my mech and I don't move my medium tank into the lander because you're only able to unload 1 unit at a time anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I realize that this rocket is a lost cause. I take a shot with it anyway because I realize, you know, there's no point in trying to pull it back, so I'm just going to try and destroy a tank. Maybe it would have been better to try and put it back on this property, but I decided at this point I was just going to try to do as much damage as I possibly can. Now, day 14 rolls in, and you can see there's a big difference between our value right now. Like, he has 15,000 more value than me. His income did go down, so now I'm actually leading in terms of income, even though I'm up against Sasha, but that is about to change very quickly because he just captured one of my properties. He finishes off my tank, finishes off my infantry, and my entire south line has just collapsed right now. I'm still doing pretty well up north, but it doesn't matter. Like, all of his tanks are starting to shift up north right now. And this is not looking good for me. Absolutely a terrible position. Now he's capturing my comm tower. He's gonna get it. You know, the moment the second player takes both comm towers, that is going to be GG. Now I move in my medium tank just to see if I can do something here. I do my best to interrupt this comm tower, but at this point I definitely realize that the match is lost. I just want to keep playing for a little bit just to see if maybe I can turn something around, but you know, no, not against a player like him. So, yeah, I'm moving my units right here. And day 15 rolls in. And he's actually not popping his market crash. He's saving up for war bonds, but yeah. And there we go. His anti-air takes down my battlecopter. That was like the last hope I had. The battlecopter was like the one reason why I kept playing. Now he's even loading up a medium tank into his lander. He can certainly afford it. So it's not like my medium tank will be unchallenged. At some point it will run into his medium tank. And yeah, he's just pushing hard into the center. His battlecopter shows up. I basically have no anti-air yet to respond to it. And yeah, day 16 rolls in, I do believe, yeah, I resign. GG. looking back at this match, you know, it really felt overwhelming to play against this guy. I felt like every single encounter that he took against me was a winning encounter. But honestly, I think I did pretty well up north. But the reason I ended up losing this match was quite simple. I mean, I just got out-tanked, really. And this is something I've been noticing lately, like a lot of the high-level matches I spectate, it's really all about spamming tanks in the early game, especially on a map such as this. I think indirects definitely have their place, but on more closed-off maps. On a map like this, it's definitely all about just spamming tanks, and this is, you know, you can't go up against an opponent that has 4 tanks to your 1. It's just not gonna work. So, and that rocket, definitely not the right play. Could I have done something if I had managed to get the rocket on this city? Maybe. Maybe. Probably not, though. Probably not. Maybe if I could have gotten the rocket onto this forest tile or here, maybe I could have prevented him from taking my com tower, but no. At the end of the day, I think I lost the match the moment I built a rocket. Honestly, no, I think I lost the match even before then. I lost the match the moment I didn't build 4 tanks, basically. But yeah, this was a very, very fun match. Hoping to challenge this guy again someday. He should really make that YouTube channel, I think. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys enjoyed this commentary. As always, let me know what you thought in the video comment section below. My name is Mangs, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.